Hi guys, this is Eric with the Film Photography channel, and today we're looking at the Olympus Pen F. Okay, so this is the Olympus Pen F. This particular one is the Pen FV. As you can see, the lovely engraving on the top plate there. The Pen FV is the last version of 3 of these Pen F film cameras. Obviously, it started off with the Pen F, and which has had no meter, no light meter, but a brightish, nice viewfinder. The Pen FT actually picked up a light meter, which it wasn't very popular because the light meter kind of caused the viewfinder to go a little bit dim, which kind of turned people off. So they went back to the no light meter with this final model, the Pen FV. The Pen F was also a double stroke model, meaning you'd have to wind it twice to advance the frame. And given that this is a half frame camera, that's kind of odd that it would have to be a double stroke, but it was. Okay, and by half frame, let's get right into that, because that's probably the most significant part of this, or the most unique part about this camera. If we open up the back here and we'll take a look, this camera is an SLR. It is a single lens reflex camera, although there's no hump there like you would normally see in an SLR. This actually is an SLR. This, if you look at the shutter here, this is how it would appear on your film frame. So it takes 35mm film, but it makes a photo this size on your 35mm frame. Can you see that? And so in effect, you're getting double the pictures out of a given roll. So if it's a 35 or 36mm or 36 frame roll, you'll get 72 frames from that roll, which is good and bad. I mean, I tend to use 24 because 72 pictures is a lot of pictures. And the last time I used this with a 72 picture roll, I'm like, I just want to get this over with now. So it was, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I guess there's times where it'd be nice to have that many rolls if you don't have a lot of film with you or something like that. It's a really well-made camera. I mean, it's just, the materials are beautiful. The engineering is really precise. Olympus makes great glass. This particular lens on here is the 40mm f1.4, and it's a nice bright lens. And given that this viewfinder is still not the brightest viewfinder in the world, it's good to have a 1.4. They make a 1.8 you can get for like 30 bucks. This one costs a little more, I think about twice that, but it's worth it, for the brighter viewfinder. And it's got nice bokeh too, and it's a sharp lens. It renders really nicely. You can actually get a OM adapter to fit this camera, so you can use your Olympus OM lenses on this particular camera, which is a nice benefit. But I do like the glass, the native glass that comes with it. I've got 2 lenses. The other one is a 21mm, I think, and it's a nice lens. If you look here, the shutter, or the f-stop, or your aperture ring, is on the front of the lens, kind of like on the OM cameras, which is nice. Your shutter speeds are set right here, okay, on this little knob in the front. And if you look at Olympus's new cameras, they're set up similarly. They have a dial here, and they try to kind of imitate the look of this one. This one it's really known for its styling. It's a shame that they did away with the Gothic F that they had on their, on all the other ones there. It was kind of a nice touch, and it made the camera look really cool. I don't know why with the FV they did away with it, but the Gothic letter F, and I'll show you what that looks like, was on the original Pen F, but on the subsequent ones, for some reason, they did away with it. It's a shame too, because that was a nice touch. Like I mentioned, the half frame is a 18x24 versus the regular 36x24 frame. And the way the shutter works is kind of noteworthy. Okay, the reason that it has to be this size and it couldn't be the full 35mm frame size is and the reason there's no hump here is because the shutter is kind of like a rotating disc. Let's see if we can. Let me put it on a little faster speed. Okay, the shutter Yeah, you can't really see what it's doing there, but the shutter kind of is a rotating disc, and it. And you see here, guys, just to show you, you know, the interior, the mirror kind of flips sideways. Let's see if we can show you that. I'll put it on a slower speed. Okay, the mirror, you see how it flips that way? And let's see if I can show you something on bulb mode. All right. If you look at the shutter, the way this shutter works, and I was trying to see if I could actually show you, but the way the shutter works, it's kind of like it has a rotating action, which means that if it's kind of like a disc that opens up at the time of, you know, taking the photo, it does motion like that. So if they were to try to engineer this where it would take a full frame, the disc would be huge. It would be like this, rendering it just, you know, not workable for, you know, to keep the camera this size. Because this is probably the tiniest SLR, I would think the tiniest SLR ever made. I can't think of one that's smaller. Even Olympus's OM series, being one of the smallest ever, was nowhere near. It was a little bit bigger than this one. It did have the hump, but this one with the lens and everything as a full package is probably the smallest SLR I've ever seen, ever used. It's got a self timer, pretty typical, you know, for cameras of its day. The self timer, you kind of, let me wind it. You gotta wind it all the way, and you push it there. I'm sure it's 10 second. I didn't wind it all the way. But yeah, it'll do its thing and take the picture eventually. It's got a kind of rectangular shutter release button, kind of like a, you know, right there. It's kind of a long rectangle, but it actually does have a cable release in the middle as well. So, you know, you still have the option for the cable release. The viewfinder, to go back to that, it's an SLR, so you are, you know, it's what you see is what you get. You are focusing through the viewfinder, and this is actually a pretty close focusing lens. I've taken it focuses, looks like about a foot. Yeah, 0.35. I'm assuming that's meters. So yeah, 0.35 meters. So 1/3 of a meter is it's about a foot, because a meter is just about 3 feet roughly. This f1.4 lens ranges all the way down to f16, and there is a depth of field preview. It's got everything that you would expect on an SLR. And again, the viewfinder, it's kind of neat because the viewfinder is kind of like an iPhone. When you look through the viewfinder, you're seeing an orientation like this, not like this from your photos. So, and you can kind of see it, the viewfinder, the way it's shaped. It's rectangular but standing up versus, landscape. It's horizontal versus landscape. So it's kind of like what we're all used to when we're taking photos with our iPhones or what have you. That's what you're seeing through there. You're seeing almost like a selfie type of situation there. So that's kind of cool to see that, in this day and age, to see such an old camera that has that rectangular or that portrait mode viewfinder. Kind of neat. Okay, let's go ahead and load this guy up. Pretty conventional, nothing really out of the ordinary. You pull up on the on your film rewind knob till it clicks. It'll open up, and let's open this up and put some film in it. It's got the little flip out handle. Pull up on that, and pretty standard. You pull up on the film rewind lever, and it will open up the back. Throw your film in there. Push everything down. It's and again, you can see how you're going to end up, how much of a picture you're going to end up with. You see that little frame, and it shows you how much your negative or how much your film will be exposed. It's fairly easy to load. It's one of the newer mechanisms where, you know, it's got the take up spool that's actually has the ratchets in it, so it makes it a lot easier to wind. The older ones, not this, but the older cameras in general, just had a slit there with no ratchets, so sometimes it would slip. But yeah, that's basically it. And now you close it. Okay, and just to round out the knobs and switches and features and everything on here, here you have up top depth of field preview. It's kind of similar to the OM lenses. I think the OM lenses actually had it at the bottom. This one has it at the top. Oops. And if you can, this one has it at the top. If you can see the lens closing down to show you depth of field. You know, a preview of your depth of field. And this other button here top is just to, this other button here is to release the lens. And the lens, oddly enough, turns to the right. I guess I think Nikon's do too. Okay, so the lens turns to the right to remove. It's pretty straightforward. Film counter up top. It's funny that they dedicated so much space to the arrow. I always thought that was odd. Olympus tended to do that. They would make this huge arrow, and then they would make these tiny numbers that you could barely read. And they one thing that they did do that's appreciated is that the numbers, I think mid-roll you get like a different color, just as a quick reminder. Yeah, and these given that there's so many frames available, there's like a 36 exposure roll in here right now. Again, 72 shots, and as you're counting away, you know, with the frame counter, I mean, it's like it show every other number shows up. It goes from 1, not even every other, from 1 to 4, then you skip. The next number you see is 8, because you know the frames are so little and there's so many of them in there that they don't even they couldn't practically put every number on the, you know, on the little wheel that's under the top plate that shows your you know, your film counter. So that's just a little quirk, you know. You see 1, then you see 4, then you see 8, and I'm sure the next number you'll see is 12. Yeah, you see 12. Yeah, and let's see. Other than that, everything else is pretty standard. Nice build quality, nice construction. That little rattling you hear, that's just these guys here. You know, the neck strap deals here. The film advance knob is kind of like, they're usually on the top plate. The film advance knob is like halfway down the top plate, kind of in the middle there. It's not the smoothest, but it's, you know, it's okay. It's kind of like stamped metal, you know. And I just noticed that it's you know, I don't know if it's this particular one, but it's a little rough. Not terribly so, but just a little bit rough when you're advancing the film. You can kind of see the way the jittering that's happening there as it's not, you know, it's not like a Leica or like a Nikon F3 or even an FE or one of those. All right, well, that's it, guys. Fun camera, beautifully styled camera. I wish they kept the F there, but they didn't. I would recommend the original F which is the double stroke. That's okay, or this one, the FV, for the brighter viewfinder. And if you pick one of these up, I really recommend the 1.4. I had the 1.8. It was just a little bit duller, not terribly so, but I really like the optics of this lens. It's a nice portrait lens, and then given that you're in portrait configuration anyway, it just kind of it goes really well. And I'll post up a couple portraits I took of the kids. But yeah, the Olympus Pen FV.